Welcome to BBB Today. I am your host, Paula Fleming, Vice President of Communications for the Better Business Bureau. Today, I'd like to introduce Elaine Bannigan, owner of Pinnacle Residential Properties in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you, Paula.
Today, we're going to talk about the housing industry.
Okay.
There's a variety of aspects to the housing industry in the market right now. Can you tell me a little bit first about yourself and your business?
Absolutely. Pinnacle is located in Wellesley. We are a satellite office for the western suburbs and handle our contiguous towns, Natick, Weston, Needham, and we have 13 brokers that work in the office. Wow. All are fairly highly educated, very high-level people. We have one of the most successful models in the state for how we do business. We don't have a great number of brokers, as other offices do.
Sure.
We're just more selective, we're more trained, and we're more focused on consumers and customer service.
Great.
So,
and you're the owner, correct?
I am the owner.
And how long have you been in business?
I have been in business for about 26 years.
Wow. Quite a background, quite a history.
Yep.
Tell me, what right today, if you can speak about, what are the biggest challenges facing home buyers at this point in time?
Oh, for home buyers, I'd have to say it's without question the mortgage market. The availability of 90% financing has almost gone away entirely. The tighter credit restrictions means that everybody has to have a squeaky clean credit report, and there's mortgage money out there, certainly, but it's harder to obtain. And if you're a first-time buyer, often we'd see first-time buyers coming up with 10% of a deposit and borrowing 90%. Well, where those loans are almost impossible to find today, having to come up with a 20% down payment is difficult for a lot of folks.
Oh, definitely.
So for those younger buyers, we're seeing that we're going back to the days of mom and dad having to help out. Not uncommon. So
I know from recent experience, one of my family members, she's young, she makes a decent living. She wanted to buy a condo for the first time. She was excited, she was approved. It was a brand new development in the western suburbs, and she put $10,000 down, and then all of a sudden they came back and said, now we need another $10,000, and she was flabbergasted. She couldn't come up with it. Although she made a decent amount of money, saving at that point in time, you know, wasn't her forte, let's just say.
Yeah.
And coming up with that extra money, and her parents aren't able to help her, she was stuck. And she felt as though she wasn't as educated maybe as she should have been, and not told about all the ins and outs, the intricacies of purchasing a home. Do you find that that's the first thing is education?
First thing is education for anybody, whether you're a seller or a buyer, but yes, understanding the process and in its entirety. Before you sit, you know, when you first sit down with a real estate agent, you need to have that kind of information. What are your expectations, what you can afford, and what's a practical scenario for you to borrow. And understandably, the banks are tightening up restrictions and wanting more money down with the foreclosure rates up nationwide. They need more equity. They need a stronger equity position.
Do you see the foreclosures happening in the western suburbs?
Very few.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes, in Massachusetts as a whole, just to clarify a lot of the issues with foreclosure, we read national press all of the time.
Sure.
And real estate markets are so very local. I mean, where there were so many foreclosures, we're in investor-heavy markets. Florida, Nevada, California. These are all places where speculators drove prices up, and we were seeing appreciation of 40% in 1 year in parts, 47% in parts of Florida. Those were investor-driven increases. Well, what happens with investor-driven meteoric increases are they're subject to a real fallout, and that's what happened. And that was almost predictable that would happen.
Okay.
So I would say Massachusetts as a whole has not experienced a high foreclosure rate. As a matter of fact, there was just a recent report that it's really down. Massachusetts is not an investor-heavy real estate market. Real estate is primarily owned by consumers buying property, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
So this year, I'll just give you some information about Massachusetts as a whole, because
Sure.
I think it's interesting when I say you have to examine not only each state in its separate category, but within the state, different areas. Some
Sure.
are stronger, some will lose money, some will gain. But as a whole, Massachusetts was down 17% in volume of
Okay.
trade for residential. That's single family, because
Okay.
condos took a little harder hit
Okay.
in terms of volume that was down. But single family transactions, there were 17% fewer. So what would one expect to happen to the prices? One would expect them to go down significantly.
You would think.
They went down in Massachusetts. Overall, it's not significant.
No, that's not at all.
Not significant. And in some towns, we had appreciation, and in some towns we had depreciation. But it's it is on a town by town basis.
A lot of other things play into that.
Lots of other things. There are some towns that tend to hold their value. They're the most resilient to any downward pressure on the market. And I'll tell you what the common denominator for those towns tends to be towns that have strong public school systems.
Well, that would make sense.
Yes.
For any age bracket.
For any age bracket. You know, proximity to the city is also good, a good commuting location.
Sure.
But, and that strong
They
public
probably
school
take
system.
those two things very
Definitely.
seriously for the first time home buyer. Even if you don't have children, you're thinking of the future.
Even if you don't,
Sure.
and if you're thinking of the future for children, of course, but even if you're not,
Right.
you want one of those towns that's going to be the most resistant to any decrease in value, of course.